Hi everyone. Today video is on clean architecture in .NET 5 application. So in this demo, we are going to create a sample .NET 5 web API, but it will design using a clean architecture. Okay. So before any going further, I want to mention that the entire session, what I am going to explain has been already made as a blog. So this is my blog. So the link of this blog will be available in the description under the video. So if anyone want to go through the blog, the link will be available in the description. Okay. So coming to our topic, what is clean architecture? Okay. So clean architecture, if you observe this image, clean architecture mainly contains three layers. Okay. One is application core. Okay. Another one is infrastructure, and last one is UI application. So if you observe here, application is center, means in the like a core layer. So on this application core layer, our infrastructure depends and UI also depends. Okay. So what is what application core will contain? Application core which generally contains entities, nothing but table data, table classes, or DTOs, or business logic, okay, or any common logic. All those kind of logics will be available in the application core only. Okay. So coming to infrastructure. Infrastructure consists of all external resource consumption. Nothing but like database calls, API calls, and file reading, file writing, or cache, all those communication with the external resources, logic will be implemented in the infrastructure. UI, we know that UI to output the result to the users. Okay. So if you coming to the definition of the clean architecture, so here you can read clean architecture lives on dependency inversion principle. So this is the main idea behind the clean architecture. So what is dependency inversion principle? Okay, in general, if you take any of our architectures, old architecture, three-tailed architecture, or any, what is the pattern? Database or data layer will always be consumed by the business logic layer, right? But in this clean architecture, okay, in this clean architecture, it is reverse. Means on business logic, data layer is dependent. Means data layer consumes the business logic. Okay, how that possible? So how that possible means application core or business logic. Business logic resides in application core. I have mentioned, right? So from this diagram, application core contains business logic. So in this application core, we are going to create every interface that are related to our application. So the interface that are belongs to infrastructure also we will create in the application core only, so that infrastructure will depend on the application core. So what is the benefit of doing this? So benefit of doing this is there is no concrete implementation or direct dependency of the database into our business logic. Okay, so there is no direct dependency. Only it will have its own interfaces. Okay, though, so that it is very easy to integrate unit test or integrating test. Here you can see. Because of this dependency inversion technique, it is more easy for testing our application core business logic without having more tight coupled dependency with the database context like that. Okay, that is the benefit of the clean architecture. Okay, so one more time I am repeating, clean architecture depends on inversion principle, nothing but data layer depends on the business logic. Okay, for its interfaces. Okay, so that is the idea behind. So that so it provides easy way for testing the code. Okay, so can go through the each and every definition, everything in the blog as well. So I think I gave you a basic idea on clean architecture. Let's jump into creating the sample application. Okay. Here I am going to using .NET CLI commands. Okay. If you are using Visual Studio, please make sure to have the latest to build the .NET 5 application. Okay. If you want to work with 3, .NET Core 3, 2, or in .NET also, same pattern is applicable. This is the architecture, not specific to any framework or any version of the .NET. Okay. So here I am going to use the CLI commands. So Visual Studio users can easily create the projects uh, so that they can easily with the user interface provided by it. So ultimately, once you are created, your project application should look like this. Okay. So see, clean architecture sample.api is nothing but UI project. Okay. Clean architecture sample.infrastructure is nothing but infrastructure logic. Here you can see two separate libraries again, right? So these two separate libraries are nothing but I have splitted application core into two separate project libraries. If you want, you can make single project only. It is totally optional. So coming to the splitting part, I have splitted like application core into application and domain project libraries. So domain project will contain entities, table entities. Okay, application will contain all remaining features of the application core, nothing but interfaces, business logic, common logic, everything will be resides in the application core, application project. Okay, so in these projects, application domain infrastructures are normal C# library. You can create, select C# library and create. API, you should select the web API option while creating the project. Okay. So this I hope this overview will helps for the Visual Studio users because I am going to create the project in CLI, right? So to make sense to more sense to Visual Studio users, I have explained the architecture here only. Okay. Now I am going to create my project in CLI commands. So CLI users, here is the command to create the solution file. Okay, .NET new, and I want to create the solution, and name of my solution is clean architecture. Okay, okay, just run the command. So Visual Studio users, you can create uh, from the UI selection. Okay, so my solution file has been created. Now I want to create the 4 projects. So in that 4, 3 are class libraries and one is web API. So this is the command to create the domain project. Here I am selecting the class library. Visual Studio users, you can select the option like class library. Okay, it is pretty easy with Visual Studio. So if you know how to create the projects in Visual Studio, just skip this uh, command section in the video. You can fast forward it. Okay. Now I have created a domain. So here is the command for my creating for application application library project. Okay. So here you can see I have created domain application infrastructure. Only pending thing is web API project. So I have created all my required projects of the clean architecture setup. Okay. So Visual Studio users, I think you have created all the projects by adding to the solution file. Okay, so this step is only for CLI, .NET CLI users. Now we have created individual projects, right? Now we have to attach our projects to our solution file. This is not required to Visual Studio users. Okay, by default, they can add directly their projects to the Visual Studio. So here is the command to add my domain class library to a solution file. Okay. Okay, sorry. I need to give CS proj. Okay, it is added. Similarly, we have to add remaining all three libraries to solution file. So this is the command to add application to the SLN file, solution file. So this is the command to add infrastructure project to the solution file. So this is the command to add our API project to the solution file. So now I have successfully added all my projects to my clean architecture solution file. Let me open my project. Okay. So this is how our projects look like. So Visual Studio users, you won't see this top layer folders. Okay, directly you can see the solution file name. Okay, but CLI users will see like that. There is slight difference. You can understand. Okay, so this is our clean architecture project layer structure. So here is infrastructure layer. Okay, and UI layer, and the domain application and domain comes under application core layer. Okay, we have set up our project with the required projects. Okay, now first thing we need to do is we need to add the references, dependent project references. Okay, so how we can determine? So from this diagram, we can understand application core is depend on infrastructure. Infrastructure depends on application core, and UI projects also depend on application core, which means we need to add the references of the application core into infrastructure project as well as the API project. Okay, and here I want to raise one more question. Do UI or API projects depends upon infrastructure layer? Okay, technically there is no use of infrastructure in the UI project because UI project will consume all business logic from the application core. There should not be any direct interaction with the infrastructure. But we need to add the reference of the infrastructure to the UI project. Why? The reason because we need to extend our dependency injection of infrastructure into the UI project. Okay, means only for registering the extended dependency injection, only we need to add the reference to the UI project. That is the reason we are going to add the reference in the UI project. So we should not directly invoke any of the logic from the infrastructure directly other than the dependency injection. Okay, please keep that in mind. So you think the project, our references will be like this. So this is the application core, right? Clean architecture domain project doesn't depends upon the any of the library. So it will be root. So there is no references that need to be added into this project. Okay. Coming to the clean architecture application project, it depends upon the domain because we splitted application core into domain and application, right? So domain contains all table entities. So The application project only requires references domain project. Here you can see. So this is my application project and added references domain only. Okay. Next thing is coming to infrastructure. Infrastructure depends on domain as well as application because it depends upon application to get its own interfaces, right? That is the point. And it depends upon the domain because of table entities. Because in DB context, we have to create the table classes, register the table classes. That is why our infrastructure uh, consumes these projects. So from our diagram, it is satisfied, right? Application core reference is added into the infrastructure. Okay. So next, UI project. Programmatically, logically, UI project only depends upon the application project only. But I have mentioned, right, to add dependency extension method or to register the dependency extension method that is in infrastructure project into UI project. We also need to add the reference of the infrastructure as well into the UI project. See, this is the API project. Sorry. In the API project, we have referenced application as well as the infrastructure. Okay. So Visual Studio users, I hope you know how to add the references. So in Visual Studio, if you go to your specific project, here you can see like a references one folder. Technically not a folder, like folder structure, you can see one arrow mark. Right click on it and add the required dependency projects as I shown in the blog. Okay. So here in CLI, we need to use commands to add the references. Okay. .NET Visual Studio users can skip this section of adding references through CLI command if you want. So first thing is I want to add my domain reference into my application projects. Okay. I will create a command. So here is the command for adding domain reference into my application project. So command is like .NET add. So this is the target project. My target project is application project. Okay. So which reference I want to add? Reference I want to add is domain. So let's run this command. So my reference of domain is added successfully. To check that, go to application project. Okay. And open C# file, C project file. The domain is added into my application. So application project only depends upon the domain. Okay. Next thing, infrastructure. Infrastructure depends on both domain and application project. So let me add those projects. So here is the command. Here is the command to add domain project reference into infrastructure project. Okay. So let me run. So reference is added, but infrastructure project also need application reference. So let's add that as well. So this is the command to add application reference into my infrastructure project. So I have successfully added both the required libraries. So let's check in our C# project. Infrastructure, CS project. And you can see two references, domain and application. Okay. And now finally, we need to add references of application project and infrastructure project into our UI. UI is nothing but web API project. So this is the command to add application project into my web API. So it's added. Now I want to add infrastructure. So this is the command to add infrastructure project into my API. So it is success. Let's go to API project. And open CS project. You can see application and infrastructure. So that is the uh, references or dependency libraries must be added. Okay. Now next thing I want to do is I want to extend the dependency injection in application project and infrastructure project. Okay. So extending is nothing but what we have to do in application project, create a file like, okay. So this is my injection class. So I want to extend the dependency. So originally dependency comes with our API by default as this here dependency injection service. Now how can I extend means, so copy the size service collection. So let me create a extended method and it return should be iService collection. Okay, I forgot one more thing. To extend the dependency injection into our class libraries, we need to install two packages. One is dependency package and another one is configuration package. Okay, let me search. So required extension Nuget package is like Microsoft extensions dot dependency injection, and another library is Microsoft extensions dot configuration. So now we need to install both these libraries into our application project as well as our infrastructure project. Okay, so let me copy. So CLI command I am copying. Visual Studio users copy it from the here package manager, or you can also search in the UI package manager that available in the Visual Studio. Okay, so I am copying the command. First thing is I want to install it in uh, application layer. Okay, so what I will do, I will navigate to application layer. Now paste the command. Okay, now what I will do, I will also install the configuration package in the application layer. Now repeat the same thing in infrastructure project. Okay, now I am navigating to infrastructure project. Okay, now I have navigated into infrastructure layer. Now let me install DA, copy again. And next thing is I need to install the dependency as well in the infrastructure. Okay, so that's the prior work we have to do. Now come back to our injection class in application. Now let me create a method of its return type is iService collection. Okay, I will name like register application services. Okay, it is a extension method. Okay, services. Okay, so this is my extension method. So let's import the namespaces. Simply return the services. And also one more input parameter for this method is let's pass the I configurations. If needed, it will be helpful to load the or to register the any configuration files. Okay, so let's import the namespace as well. Method should be static. Okay, this is my extended injection method in my application layer. What I'm doing, I'm simply creating a extended method for DA. Okay, same way we need to do it in infrastructure also. So let's go to infrastructure, create a file similar like injection.cs. Okay, so this is the DA extended class. Now what I will do, I will go to application, I will copy the same and paste it here. One thing I will do is I will change it to method name to register infrastructure services. Okay, let's import the namespaces as well. Okay, now what we have did, we have extended our DA in application project as well as the infrastructure project. Now the thing is we need to register these methods, these extension methods into the our UA project. So here what I can do, services dot copy the method name, paste it here, configuration and import the namespace. Okay, similarly infrastructure also. See, the reason I have mentioned, right, for dependency injection we are going to import the infrastructure namespace into the UI project. See, other than this line of code, which line of code, register infrastructure services, other than this line of code we should not consume anything from the infrastructure. Okay, only because of this only we added the reference, otherwise we don't no need to add the infrastructure into the UI project. Okay, so now we have also set up the DA extensions of the application and the infrastructure as well. Okay, so now we can jump into creating our sample API. So I want to create a table class. Okay, for that what I will do, table classes where it should reside in domain project, right? So in domain, create name like entities. Okay, in that my table name class is gadget.cs. So this is my class. Okay, let's me copy the properties of the class from my code snippet to save some time. So these are all the properties of my gadgets table class. Okay, so now I have created the class. So my project, I'm going to use NT framework core. Okay, so that I need to create a DB context. So DB context means external resource where I need to create in infrastructure. So here for DB context, we need to create interface as well. So interfaces where we should create interfaces should be created in application project. So our DB context interface should be created in the application project. Okay. Since DB context involves in NT framework core, right? So let's install the NT framework in the application project. Okay. So NT framework core new. So I am copying the CLI command. Let's navigate to application project first. Now install the NT framework core Nuget package. So core successfully installed. Now go to project. I need to create a interface for my DB context. For that, create a folder like contracts. Contracts are nothing but abstract methods our interface contains. So you can use like interface or contracts. I generally use contracts, my folder name. If you want, you can name it like interfaces as well. Inside of contracts, I want to create folder like data. Okay. Inside of data, I want file and my DB context. My DB context name will be my old DB context. So my interface name will be my old DB context. So this is my interface. So first thing is let me register my uh, gadgets table class here so that my context will implement it. Okay, let's import the Inti framework namespace and the gadgets namespace. Okay, that is my interface class. Okay, so now I am done with DB context interface that was created in the applications because all interfaces must be created in the application project. Now in domain, I need to implement that interface. Okay, so for that, not domain, sorry, in infrastructure. Okay, so so that in infrastructure also we need to have NT framework core. Okay, so first let's install the NT framework core. So let's navigate to infrastructure project. Okay, okay, now install the NT framework core. Okay, now infrastructure successfully installed NT framework core. But along with Entity Framework Core, we need to install SQL Server NT Framework Core extension in infrastructure as well. Why? Because we are going to register the DA in infrastructure only. That is the reason we need to install one more additional package that related to SQL Server. Okay, so let's install that as well. So this is the library we need to install in uh, infrastructure project. So I have successfully installed. The thing we have to do is we need to implement the DB context. So create folder like data and file like my old DB font. See this implementation in infrastructure only. Okay, this is my DB context class. So what I will do, I am going to copy paste my snippet to save some time. So this is my snippet. Okay, let's import the namespaces. See here I am implementing my DB context interface that was in application layer. Okay, that's it. What I have did, I have created my old DB context that implements the I interface. Now in the injection class of interface, we need to register those DA services. Okay, so what I have to do to configure the DB context, we need to register service like. So see, this is the way in general NT framework core DB context should be registered. Okay, and here you can see function string. So this should be registered in our UI project, and in the dev settings, add our connection string like this. Okay, so coming to our injection registration in infrastructure. So here what it will do, it will inject my old DB context in any class directly. But we don't want to use my old DB context directly. We want to use interface. So to do that, need to register like for I hold my DB context. So this will work for us. I am injecting into the I interface. This method will be returned from the based on this registration. Here it gets created a object. Okay, so that's all about the creation of DB context and registering into the DA. So let's recap what we have did. See, the basic funda inversion of control, here it is proved in clean architecture. This interface in application layer. So our infrastructure is depends on the application layer. So our application layer only contains interfaces, nothing. No my old DB context registration or anything like that. So what it will be helpful, it is easy to mock the I interface context whatever we want, I my old DB context, and it is very easy to test, write unit tests and integration tests as well. That is the benefit of this clean architecture. Okay. So we are done with our DB context. Now I want to create some business logic to fetch the data. So to fetch the data, business logic means it should be in application project only. Okay. Before writing application project, I want to create DTO for DTO for data transfer. So in application only, create folder like DTOs. Okay, and name it like gadget DTO. So this is my DTO. This is nothing but a data transfer object, which is the duplication of the entity class only. So what I will do, go to domain in the entity gadget class, copy the all properties from here, and I can assign it in my data transfer object. Okay. Now let me create my business logic. So business logic as well in application only. So first, before going to the implementation, first let's create the contract. Contract is nothing but interfaces. So in contracts, create one more folder like logics Inside of logics, add file like uh, gadget logic.cs. Okay. Sorry, it should be iGadgets because it is interface, right? Okay, this is my interface class. So here I want to define my method definition. Method definition is like I want list of all gadgets. So here I have to use a gadget DTO. All gad- Okay. So this is my method definition. Let's import the namespaces. Right. So now let's implement the business logic for this interface. To do that, in clean architecture, create a new folder like logics. Inside of logics, what I will do, logics.ds. So here I want to mention one thing. Here simply we are using like business logic. So here I am not using repository pattern because by default entity framework context comes with the dependency, means repository and unit of work pattern. So I am not using. If I am using Dapper, then I can use repository. There it is very useful. Okay, because entity framework by default it uses unit of work and repository pattern only. Okay, if you are using Dapper, you can use Dapper. So at that time, what you have to do? At that time, in infrastructure, you need to create the repository, and that repository interface will be in our application because here Dapper repository directly communicate with the database, right? So repository should be in infrastructure. Okay, you can use the repository pattern also. That is ideal for Dapper. Here, instead of using direct logics, you can use CQRS also. At the time, everything in application only because CQRS also uses DB context directly. So if you want, instead of business logics like this, you can use CQRS pattern as well. Okay. Here I am not explaining CQRS. Here I am directly consuming the business logic. Okay. If you want CQRS, I have another article. Go and read, and you can combine both them in the clean architecture. That CQRS pattern, if you want. So this is my gadget logic file. So first thing is I want to inject the DB context here. So for DB context, I no need to depend directly on my old DB context. I can consume the interfaces that is present in my application project itself. Okay. So here I injected my old DB context. Okay. Okay. So here injecting our DB context. Now let's implement my. So now here I can inherit my I gadget logic interface. A gadget logic. Okay. I gadget logic. We need to interface. So now I need to implement the method. So let's implement the method. So this is my method. Here what I will do, I simply use my DB context, gadgets, and I will write select new gadget DTO, so I can map the data. Okay, I can return to list. So that's all. That is my business logic method. Okay. So the pending work is I need to register the dependency in the application extension method. So go to injection file in application project. Here I can register them in the DA service. So services dot add scope iGadget logic, comma gadget logic. Okay, so that's all. We are done with our business. So let's create our endpoint to test it. So to do that, what we can do, go to API projects. Okay, uh, what I will do, I will create a one test controller. Okay, so this is my test controller. So what I will do, let's copy few things to make it quick. Inherit with base controller and decorate with these things. Okay, now what I will do, I will inject the my business logic, that is iGadget logic. Okay, so I have injected my gadget logic. So let me create an action method. So that's it. We are done with our API creation using the clean architecture. So if you recall, clean architecture is inversion. What that means? Uh, infrastructure, nothing but database logic contains application depends upon the application project. Application project is nothing but the project that contains business logic. So here is inversion. So this helps to implement the testing more easy. So let's run and test our output. So let first build the project with all libraries. So build without any errors. Let me run the project. So here is my endpoint. Let's test it. See, I got my data. We have successfully created a web API endpoint with clean architecture. Okay, so that's how clean architecture works. Okay, so I hope this video has delivered some useful information on clean architecture. Okay, if you like my video, please do subscribe to my channel and we will meet you again with new videos. Until then, signing off.